Chinatown has been without a branch of the Boston Public Library since 1938, and residents have been trying to regain their branch for several years. In the latest chapter of this long story, Chinatown residents are getting an expression of support from students in a part of Boston where an attractive new branch was built 5 years ago. Tomorrow, second-grade students from Mattapan's Young Achievers School will show support for a Chinatown library by marching to City Hall. To fill us in are two guests, a second-grade teacher at the school, Shah, and the youth coordinator from the Chinese Progressive Association, Situ. I want to thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Situ. Talk about Chinatown, and I know in many ways it's pretty self-explanatory, but why is this so important to people in Chinatown to have a branch library?
Well, I think a branch library for Chinatown is really important because it's a stabilizing space for the community. And so it's not like Chinatown never had a library before. As you mentioned, there was a public library branch, and it was torn down in the 50s during urban renewal to build the central artery. And so, what a library would mean for the community is not only a space for books, but also a community space where, not only is there access to all these services, it's also a space to preserve, a community history and a community culture. It's really important because it's intergenerational as well. And, young children can go and families can go and the elderly. And in Chinatown, where it's such a densely populated neighborhood, that kind of space is really rare. And so it's really important for the community to have that, and to see that in a library and community center space would be really great.
Shah, you see what this means right now with your students in the second grade. Talk about what that's like.
Yeah, so we have the fortune of being able to go to the Mattapan Library every Tuesday. And that story was one that was championed by Charles Yancey. They had to fight for 10 years to get that library. And we've been going since the beginning of the year, and children are in love with the library. Every Tuesday, as soon as they come in, they ask me if we're going. Taking out their library cards for the first time was a real rite of passage. And so when we traveled around to different neighborhoods in Boston, we visited different libraries, and I finally took them to Chinatown, and I said, well, there's no library here. They were shocked and kind of appalled. And so immediately they said, that's not fair. What can we do to try to get the kids in Chinatown a library? And the other thing is we teach kids about sort of freedom fighters, we teach them about Martin Luther King, we teach them about Frederick Douglass, but we're sort of giving them a way now to really participate in civic action, to be freedom fighters themselves.
Kim, one of the perceptions out there, and there are test scores that might be feeding into this too. Oh, Asian students, they do fine. They don't need a library. What else do you need a library for exactly?
Well, I think, that kind of generalization really plays into this larger idea of Asian Americans and Asian students being a model minority, where if you have good test scores, then of course everything is fine, right? But as I mentioned before, that doesn't really get at all the complexities and the things that kids really need in their life to thrive, like access to books, access to computers, access to services for their families, right? Because the library would offer ESL classes, computer classes, things of that sort. And I think all that is missed when all you look at is test score for an Asian American student. And at the same time, right, there's this perception that all Asian American students are doing fine. But I think that what is often missed is that Asian Americans actually have one of the lowest poverty rates in the country. And so sometimes when just looking at performance in school, that gets overlooked.
And talk about why your students get so excited, because I remember when I was a kid, you spent so much time in classrooms. Sometimes I had trouble staying awake, but if I went into a library, I felt like I was in a toy store almost.
Yeah, one of the things that they talk about is this idea of choice when you go to the library. You're allowed to take out any book that you want to take out. And so I think that there's something about the library that's kind of immersive. You know, it takes you to a new place. And similarly, when I took the kids to Chinatown, they had all sorts of stereotypes about Chinatown. Are we going to have to get on a plane to go there? Will anybody know how to speak English when we're there? And once we took them there, Chinatown has kind of the same immersive quality that the library does, and it's become one of their favorite neighborhoods. And the library has become one of their favorite places.
Tell me what you have planned tomorrow, because this isn't just marching from Chinatown to City Hall. This is also bringing in a petition, right?
Right. So last Friday, so 6 days ago, we started a petition, and we thought we would get a couple hundred signatures maybe. And we are very close to 1,000 signatures. So every day we pull up the petition online with the kids and we see how much it's grown. And so we're hoping to get to 1,000 by Friday. And what we'll be doing is we're starting in Chinatown. We are going to hear from some citizens who live in Chinatown about sort of the struggle to get a library for almost 60 years now. We'll be marching all the way to City Hall. Kids have made signs. We have some chants that we've created. And then once we get to City Hall, a few students will read the public service announcements that they've written. And then we will invite any, hopefully, counselors and anybody else who would like to sort of respond to the kids.
Kevin, the other thing a library does is it takes the culture of the community, and not just mainstream American literature or something, but we're talking about Asian American culture, and it puts this on a platform, as if to say, this is an important part of America for these kids. Is this something also that people are looking at when they want a library in the neighborhood?
Yes, definitely. I think the vision for this library in Chinatown is not just a library, but also this community center space where, you know, we can have that preservation of culture, and that where students can learn about Asian American history and the history of the community. So we're hoping that, you know, this library space can also have exhibits where we partner with organizations in the community, like the Historical Society, for example, and showcase, you know, all these aspects of a really, really diverse history and culture.
So how does it feel having the support from Mattapan?
It's really fantastic to see how far this campaign has grown, because 10 years ago, young people at the Chinese Progressive Association kickstarted this because they themselves were like, why isn't there a library? Let's survey the community. And so from those results, they found that the community wanted this. So it's really great to see support across the city, you know, from all the way from Mattapan, supporting this initiative too.
Eddie, so what's the plan for tomorrow with this event?
So we're starting at noon in Chinatown. The kids will eat lunch, and then we will start our march. And we'll be marching all the way to City Hall. We'll hear from the students, we'll be singing, and then we'll be inviting the community to respond to us if anybody would like to.
Great, thank you both very much for being with us. Situ and Shah.